She spit on my wife's grave and called me a welfare fraud. My name is Amory Davis. For 23 years, I watched my daughter-in-law, Meliora, steal my disability money, mock my service, and convince my own son I was worthless. At Selena's will reading, she leaned forward with that poisonous smirk and said the words that destroyed her life. Finally, now we get what we've been waiting for from this government leech who never served anyone but himself. Meliora had no clue she'd just insulted a Medal of Honor recipient. Had no clue the $4.1 million business she was drooling over belonged to me. Had no clue that the FBI was already building a case against her. What happened next shocked everyone in that room, including my own son. You know what? I'm really glad you found this story, because what I'm about to share could help you or someone you love avoid the same nightmare. Stick around, and I'll show you exactly how one sentence destroyed a thief's entire world. Because Meliora learned the hard way. Some old men bite back. The signs had been building for 8 years. 2 incidents made it crystal clear how my own family saw me. First incident happened at Tommy's birthday party last March. Meliora stood in our kitchen, the kitchen my late wife Selena had picked out tile by tile, holding court with her college friends. I walked in wearing my VFW cap just back from visiting Selena's grave. "Oh, look," Meliora announced, not even lowering her voice. "Here comes our resident welfare case." Her friends giggled. One of them, a blonde in a $2,000 handbag, whispered loud enough for me to hear, "I thought he was disabled." "PTSD," Meliora said, making air quotes. "Gets $23.50 a month for sitting around watching TV. Meanwhile, we're working real jobs." I set down my coffee cup, didn't say a word. Just walked to my room in the back of the house, the room I'd moved to after Selena died because Meliora said the master bedroom made her uncomfortable. But I heard every word that followed. "Honestly," Meliora continued, "I don't even think he really served. Have you ever seen his medals? Because I've looked everywhere." Second incident was worse. 2 months ago, at the VFW Memorial Day barbecue, Meliora showed up uninvited, dragging Tommy along. 150 veterans and their families were there. Real heroes. Men who'd lost limbs, lost friends, lost pieces of their souls in places most people couldn't pronounce. Meliora cornered me by the flag display. "Amory, we need to talk about your situation." "My situation?" "This whole veteran thing, it's embarrassing." She gestured around the room. "These people think you're some kind of war hero, but I've done my research." My hands tightened on my paper plate. "What research?" "I called the VA. I asked about your service record." "You know what they told me?" She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Classified. Everything about your deployment is classified. You know what that usually means?" I stayed quiet. "It means there's nothing to classify. It means you probably swept floors at some base in Germany while real soldiers did the fighting." Around us, conversations continued. Laughter, stories of brotherhood. None of them heard Meliora's words, but I saw Tommy flinch. "Mom always said you were a hero," Tommy said quietly. "Your mother was protecting his feelings," Meliora snapped, "just like she protected him by putting the trucking business in both their names. Thank God that's about to change." The trucking business. Davis Family Trucking. 23 rigs. Established 1987. The year Selena and I got married. The business Meliora thought she understood. She had no idea Selena's will contained a surprise. No idea that my signature was required for any major decisions. No idea that those classified records she'd been digging for were about to become very, very public. But first, I had to endure 3 more hours of sideways glances and whispered conversations. Meliora made sure everyone knew her opinion. By the end of the barbecue, I could feel the doubt creeping into familiar faces. Walking to my truck, a beat-up Ford F-150 with 200,000 miles, I heard Meliora's voice carry across the parking lot. "It's honestly sad. A grown man living off sympathy and government handouts. Someone should really look into whether he's defrauding the system." Tommy said nothing. My own son said nothing while his wife called his father a fraud in front of the entire veteran community. That night, I sat in my trailer behind the trucking yard, the same trailer Meliora called embarrassing whenever her friends asked where I lived. I opened my closet, moved aside the old work shirts, found the small wooden box I hadn't touched in 5 years. Inside, bronze star, silver star, and something else, something Meliora's research hadn't uncovered. The phone rang. Washington, D.C. area code. "Amory, it's Patricia Hayes. I think it's time." If I stayed quiet much longer, I'd lose everything that mattered. The financial damage was already staggering. Over 8 years, Meliora had systematically drained accounts she thought I couldn't track, power of attorney documents she'd convinced Selena to sign during her final illness. Just to help with Emery's VA paperwork, she'd said. $187,000. Gone. My disability checks, direct deposited to an account Meliora controlled. $23.50 a month times 96 months. That's $225,600. Money meant to help me manage what the doctors called service-related trauma, what Meliora called freeloading. But the money wasn't the worst part. The business was in jeopardy. Meliora had been telling potential buyers that I was mentally incompetent and planning to have me declared unfit to make financial decisions. She'd found a lawyer, some slick guy in a $5,000 suit, who specialized in elder care issues. Your father-in-law is clearly struggling, I'd overheard her telling Tommy last week. Living in that trailer, talking to himself, those episodes where he just stares into space. The kindest thing we can do is take over his responsibilities. Those episodes were moments when the memories hit. Desert Storm, the mission that earned me medals I'd never talked about. Moments when 20-year-old faces flashed before my eyes. Kids who didn't make it home. Meliora saw weakness. She didn't understand that some silences are born from strength, not shame. The worst part? My own son was starting to believe her. Dad, maybe she's right, Tommy had said 3 days ago. Maybe you need help managing things. The business, your finances, it's a lot for someone your age. Someone my age. I was 67, same age as my father when he built our first warehouse. Same age as men who'd been running companies for decades. But I was also someone who'd been hiding the truth about my service for 23 years. And that silence was about to cost me everything. Selena's will reading was scheduled for Friday afternoon, June 15th, 2 p.m. at the law offices of Harrison and Associates. Mahogany conference table. Leather chairs worth $3,000 each. The kind of place where lives get divided up with legal precision. Meliora had been planning this day for months. I'd seen her browsing luxury car websites, a BMW 7 Series, $85,000. She'd bookmarked the page. Once we settle Amory's affairs, she'd told her sister on a phone call I'd accidentally overheard, we can finally live like normal people. No more pretending to care about some old man's war stories. War stories I'd never told. The irony was crushing. Meliora was convinced I was hiding poverty and mental illness. The truth was the opposite. Davis Family Trucking wasn't just some small operation Selena and I had scraped together. It was a multi-million-dollar enterprise. 23 rigs, each worth $200,000. Long-term contracts with major retailers, real estate holdings across 3 counties. But here's what Meliora didn't know. Selena's will didn't leave everything to Tommy like she assumed. It left everything to me. With one condition. If I was deemed mentally incompetent within 2 years of Selena's death, control would transfer to Tommy immediately. Meliora's plan made perfect sense. Get me declared unfit, let Tommy inherit, then control Tommy. Except Selena had built in a safeguard, a clause requiring unanimous agreement from 3 trustees before any competency evaluation could proceed. Trustee 1, myself. Trustee 2, Tommy. Trustee 3, someone Meliora had never heard of. Senator Patricia Hayes, former Lieutenant Patricia Hayes, 82nd Airborne Division. The woman who'd called me 3 nights ago. Amory, I've been watching the situation. My staff monitors any inquiries about classified service records. Someone's been asking questions about your Desert Storm deployment. Meliora, I'd said. I figured. Listen, I can't intervene in family matters, but if this goes public, if she forces the issue, those records will have to be unsealed. Are you ready for that? I'd been quiet for a long moment. 23 years of silence, Patricia. Maybe it's time. The ceremony is this weekend. Memorial Day commemoration at the VFW. If you want to end this, that's the place to do it. I'll make sure the right people are there. Now, sitting in my trailer on Thursday night, I realized the cost of continued silence. Not just money, not just business. My entire legacy. Selena's memory. The respect of men who'd served beside me. Meliora thought she was stealing from a broken old man. She had no idea she was about to take on the United States military. The phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. Verification complete. Records unsealed. Ready when you are. PH. Tomorrow's will reading was about to become something very different than Meliora expected. Friday afternoon. Harrison and Associates Law Office. Mahogany and leather and the smell of expensive cologne. Meliora walked in like she owned the place. Designer dress, $400 heels. That smile she wore when she thought she was winning. Tommy followed behind, looking uncomfortable but saying nothing. I sat at the far end of the table, old jeans, work boots. The contrast was intentional. Attorney Harrison cleared his throat. Distinguished guy, silver hair, probably charged $800 an hour. Before we begin the formal reading, I understand there are some concerns about Mr. Davis's mental capacity to— That's right, Meliora interrupted. She pulled out a manila folder. I have documentation here showing clear signs of cognitive decline, financial irresponsibility, and inability to maintain basic living standards. She slid papers across the table. Bank statements showing the disability account she controlled. Photos of my trailer, a letter from her doctor, a guy who'd never examined me, suggesting I needed professional evaluation. Furthermore, Meliora continued, Mr. Davis has been making false claims about his military service. I've attempted to verify his records, but the VA claims everything is classified. She made air quotes. We all know what that means. Tommy shifted in his chair. Wouldn't meet my eyes. What does it mean, Meliora? I asked quietly. It means there's nothing to classify. It means you've been living a lie for 23 years. Her voice was rising now, confidence building. It means my son deserves better than a father who built his entire identity on stolen valor. Stolen valor. The words hung in the air like a physical blow. Attorney Harrison looked uncomfortable. Mrs. Davis, these are serious accusations. They're facts, Meliora snapped. This man has been defrauding the government, embarrassing our family, and now he thinks he can control Selena's estate? It's time someone called him what he is. A fake. I reached into my jacket pocket, pulled out a single piece of paper. What's that? Meliora demanded. Phone number, I said. Pentagon verification hotline. You want to check my service record? Let's check it. She blinked. Right now? Right now. I dialed the number, put the phone on speaker. Pentagon personnel verification, this is Sergeant Martinez. This is William Davis, service number 847-293-6185. I'm authorizing full disclosure of my classified service record to the parties present. Silence on the other end. Then, sir, can you confirm your deployment dates? October 1990 through March 1991, 82nd Airborne Division. And the nature of your classified mission? Meliora was leaning forward now, that smirk fading. Operation Desert Storm, classified reconnaissance behind enemy lines. February 23, 1991. More keyboard clicking. Then, Mr. Davis, I'm showing your record was unsealed yesterday by Senate request. Your service record includes Bronze Star, Silver Star, and— A pause. Sir, are you sure you want this information disclosed publicly? I'm sure. Medal of Honor, awarded for single-handed rescue of 12 captured coalition soldiers under heavy enemy fire, resulting in destruction of enemy stronghold and successful extraction of all personnel. The room went completely silent. Meliora's face had gone white. That's impossible. Ma'am, Sergeant Martinez continued, Mr. Davis's actions saved 12 lives at extreme personal risk. The mission was classified for 23 years due to ongoing intelligence concerns. As of yesterday, those restrictions have been lifted. I hung up the phone. Meliora was staring at me like I'd grown a second head. But you live in a trailer. You drive that old truck. You collect disability. The trailer keeps me close to the business, I said calmly. The truck gets good mileage, and the disability isn't for poverty, Meliora. It's for the shrapnel in my spine and the nightmares that come with watching good men die. Tommy spoke for the first time. Dad, why didn't you ever tell me? Your mother knew. She asked me to keep it quiet. Said she didn't marry a hero, she married a man. Said the medals were just metal compared to the person I was every day after. Meliora was shaking her head. No, this doesn't change anything. You're still not capable of running a business, living like you do the way you act. The way I act? I pulled out another paper. Davis Family Trucking. Annual revenue, $4.1 million. Net worth, approximately $6.8 million when you include real estate holdings. Her mouth fell open. I own 60% controlling interest. Your husband owns 40%. Selena left him her 20%, but she left me her 60% plus her personal assets. The will you're so eager to hear? Attorney Harrison was nodding slowly. Mr. Davis is correct. The deceased made it very clear that— But the power of attorney, Meliora started. Was revoked, I said, sliding another document across the table, 3 days before Selena died, when she found out about the missing money. Meliora's designer handbag slipped from her lap. Missing money? $187,000. Unauthorized transfers from accounts you thought I couldn't access. Selena kept better records than you realized. Tommy was staring at his wife. Meliora, what is he talking about? I was helping with his finances. He's not capable. I'm very capable, I said. Capable enough to document every fraudulent transaction. Capable enough to contact the FBI Financial Crimes Unit, and capable enough to have you arrested. Meliora stood up so fast her chair fell backward. You can't prove anything. I smiled for the first time in months. Meliora, I spent 6 months behind enemy lines gathering intelligence. You think I can't prove you stole money from a disabled veteran? The room was quiet except for Meliora's heavy breathing. This isn't over, she whispered. Actually, I said, it is. The will reading ended with Meliora storming out and Tommy sitting in stunned silence. But I wasn't done planting seeds. Over the next 3 days I made certain phone calls, careful preparations. Meliora thought she'd been researching me? Time to show her what real research looked like. Monday morning, I visited the VFW hall. Not the usual coffee and complaints routine. This was business. Commander Wilson, I said to the hall president, a Vietnam vet with silver hair and steady hands. I need to ask a favor. What's on your mind, Amory? I explained the situation, the accusations, the upcoming Memorial Day ceremony. Someone's been telling people I'm not who I say I am. Commander Wilson's face darkened. That's serious business, Amory. False accusations about service. I know. That's why I think it's time to set the record straight. He studied me for a long moment. You've been quiet about your service for years. What changed? My family's honor, my wife's memory. Some things are worth fighting for twice. Tuesday, I drove to the trucking yard. My office was in a double-wide trailer. Nothing fancy, but functional. I'd been running the business from there for 15 years, ever since Selena got sick and needed me closer to home. My secretary, Janet, had been fielding strange calls. Mr. Davis, that woman called again. Your daughter-in-law? She was asking about the company's financial status, whether you've been making erratic decisions. What did you tell her? Same thing I told her yesterday. Company information is confidential. I pulled out a manila envelope. Inside, documents I'd been preparing for months. Financial records, insurance policies. Something else Meliora didn't know about. Janet, I need you to make copies of these and call Senator Hayes' office. Tell them we're ready. Senator Hayes? Janet's eyebrows shot up. The Senator Hayes? We served together, long time ago. Wednesday brought unexpected visitors. 2 men in dark suits, badges visible, FBI. Mr. Davis, we're following up on a complaint filed regarding financial irregularities. I invited them into my office, offered coffee. We talked for 2 hours. They were thorough, professional, very interested in the documentation I'd been quietly gathering for 8 months. Mr. Davis, this appears to be a clear case of elder financial abuse. The evidence is quite compelling. What happens now? We'll need to interview the suspect, and we'll need access to all relevant accounts. Of course. After they left, I made one more call. Patricia? It's Amory. I was wondering when you'd call. My staff says there's been increased interest in your service record. Someone's forcing my hand. I heard. Financial fraud investigation? Among other things. Patricia, I've been thinking about what you said, about the ceremony this weekend. The Memorial Day commemoration? What about it? Think there might be room for one more speaker? Senator Patricia Hayes was quiet for a moment. Amory, are you sure? Once this comes out, there's no going back. Your privacy. Your quiet life. My quiet life ended the moment someone called me a fraud in front of my community. All right then. I'll make some calls. This should be interesting. Thursday morning, Meliora showed up at the trucking yard unannounced, drove right up to my office trailer in her BMW, stormed through the door without knocking. We need to talk. About what? About your little performance at the lawyer's office. You think some phone calls and paperwork scare me? I leaned back in my chair. Should they? I've been doing my own research, Amory. Real research. I know people. Important people. People who can make problems disappear. What kind of problems? The kind where old men make accusations they can't prove. I opened my desk drawer, pulled out a business card. FBI Financial Crimes Division. Funny thing, Meliora, they seemed very interested in your research. Her face went pale. You called the FBI? I didn't have to. Turns out when you steal from a disabled veteran, they notice eventually. She grabbed the desk edge. You can't prove I stole anything. Bank records say otherwise. Security footage from the branch where you forged signatures says otherwise. The VA investigator who's been building a case for 6 months says otherwise. Meliora was backing toward the door. This isn't over. Actually, it is. See you at the ceremony Saturday, Meliora. Should be educational. After she left, I made one final call. Commander Wilson, it's Amory. About Saturday's ceremony, I think we're going to need extra seating. Memorial Day weekend. VFW Hall decorated with flags and flowers. 150 veterans, family members, and community supporters filled every chair. Local television crew in the back corner. They'd gotten word something special was planned. I sat in the front row, wearing my dress uniform for the first time in 20 years. It still fit, though the fabric smelled like mothballs and memories. Meliora arrived with Tommy, scanning the crowd like she was looking for allies. She dressed carefully, respectful black dress, American flag pin, the perfect grieving daughter-in-law performance. She had no idea what was coming. Commander Wilson took the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, we gather today to honor those who served, those who sacrificed, and those who continue to serve our communities. Standard opening. Polite applause. This year, we have a special guest. Many of you know her from television, from her work on the Senate Armed Services Committee. Please welcome Senator Patricia Hayes. The crowd stirred. Patricia Hayes was a big deal. Former Army officer, rising political star, known for her work on veterans issues. What was she doing at our small-town VFW hall? Senator Hayes approached the podium with military bearing, sharp uniform, confident stride, the kind of presence that commanded attention. Thank you, Commander. I'm honored to be here, but I must confess, I came for personal reasons. She paused, looking directly at me. I came to tell you about a man I served with 23 years ago. A man who saved my life and the lives of 11 other soldiers. The hall went completely quiet. His name is Staff Sergeant William Davis, and until yesterday, his actions were classified. I felt every eye in the room turn toward me, heard several people whisper my name. Meliora was frozen in her seat, that confident smirk finally gone. February 23, 1991, Senator Hayes continued. 12 of us were captured during a reconnaissance mission behind enemy lines. We were being held in a fortified compound scheduled for execution at dawn. The television crew had their cameras rolling now. Staff Sergeant Davis wasn't part of our unit. He was supposed to be 50 miles away. But when our distress signal was intercepted, he volunteered for what everyone knew was a suicide mission. My hands were shaking. I hadn't talked about this in 2 decades. He came alone. No backup, no air support. Just one soldier against an entire enemy installation. Patricia's voice was rising now, carrying to every corner of the hall. He eliminated 37 enemy combatants, destroyed their communications, and personally carried 3 wounded soldiers to safety while under heavy fire. Someone in the audience gasped. For this action, Staff Sergeant William Davis was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor, the highest military decoration in the United States. The applause started slowly, then built like thunder. People were standing, cheering, looking at me with expressions of awe and disbelief, but I was watching Meliora. Her face had gone from pale to green. She was staring at me like I was a stranger, like everything she thought she knew about the world had just crumbled. Tommy grabbed her hand. "Did you know about this?" She shook her head, speechless. Senator Hayes wasn't finished. But here's what makes this story truly remarkable. For 23 years, Staff Sergeant Davis, now Master Sergeant Davis, retired, has never once mentioned his Medal of Honor. Never used it for personal gain. Never demanded the respect his actions earned. She turned to face me directly. Until this week, when someone close to his family accused him of stolen valor. The crowd's mood shifted. Murmurs of anger rippled through the audience. Someone suggested that this hero, this man who risked everything to save American lives, was a fraud, that his service record was fake, that his disability benefits were undeserved. Meliora was shrinking into her chair. Ladies and gentlemen, I've come here today to set the record straight, and to ask Staff Sergeant Davis to join me at the podium. The applause was deafening now, hands pushing me forward, voices calling my name. I walked to the front of the room on unsteady legs. Patricia handed me the microphone. My voice cracked. Started again. I never wanted this attention. My wife, Selena, she knew about the medal. She asked me to keep it quiet. Said she didn't marry a hero, she married a man. The hall was completely silent now. But sometimes you have to speak up. When someone attacks your honor, your family's honor, your community's honor, sometimes you have to fight back. I looked directly at Meliora. A few days ago, someone called me a fake veteran, said I was defrauding the government, said I was living a lie. I paused. That person was wrong. Meliora stood up abruptly. I think we should go, she whispered to Tommy, but Tommy wasn't moving. He was staring at me with tears in his eyes. Dad, I'm so sorry. I should have defended you. I should have believed in you. You did believe in me, son. You just forgot for a while. Meliora was already heading for the door, but Commander Wilson's voice stopped her. Ma'am, before you leave, I think everyone here would like to know who made these accusations against our Medal of Honor recipient. The crowd turned to stare at Meliora. 150 veterans and their families, all focused on the woman who'd called their honored guest a fraud. Her face was burning red. I was misinformed. I made a mistake. What kind of mistake? Someone called out. The kind where you steal money from a disabled veteran, I said quietly, but the microphone carried my words to every corner of the hall. Gasps, angry voices, people standing up. That's a serious accusation, Commander Wilson said. I pulled out a manila folder. FBI financial crimes investigation, opened 3 days ago. $187,000 stolen over 8 years. Meliora was pushing through the crowd now, desperate to reach the exit, but the local news crew was waiting by the door. Ma'am, can you comment on allegations of financial elder abuse against a Medal of Honor recipient? She shoved past them, practically running to her car. Tommy stayed, walked up to the podium, took the microphone from my hands. I want everyone to know, he said, his voice breaking, that my father is the best man I've ever known, and I'm ashamed that I let anyone convince me otherwise. The applause lasted 5 full minutes. When it finally died down, Patricia leaned over and whispered in my ear, How does it feel to get your honor back? I looked out at the crowd of faces, men and women who'd served, who understood sacrifice, who knew what it meant to fight for something bigger than yourself. It feels like coming home. The ceremony was supposed to end with cake and coffee. Instead, it became a media event that would change everything. After Patricia's speech and my brief remarks, people surrounded me like I was some kind of celebrity. Handshakes, thank yous, questions about the mission I'd never talked about. It was overwhelming and humbling at the same time. But the real fireworks started when Tommy approached the microphone again. Before we conclude, he said, I think my father has more to share. I looked at him confused. We hadn't planned this. Tommy smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from him in months. Dad, tell them about the business. The business? Davis Family Trucking. Tell them what you built. I took the microphone back, still uncertain where this was going. Well, Selena and I started the company in 1987. Small operation at first. 1 truck, mostly local deliveries. How big is it now? Tommy prompted. 23 trucks. Long-haul contracts across the southeast. We employ 47 people full-time. Murmurs of approval from the crowd. Dad, Tommy said, louder now, tell them how much it's worth. I hesitated. This felt like private information. Go ahead, he insisted. Everyone should know what kind of business leader you really are. Current valuation is approximately $4.1 million in equipment and contracts, with real estate holdings closer to $6.8 million total. The room went quiet again, but this was different. This was the silence of people recalculating everything they thought they knew. Patricia stepped back to the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, what you're seeing here is exactly why Staff Sergeant Davis's service record remained classified for so long. Heroes don't advertise. They just keep serving. That's when the FBI agents walked in. 2 men in dark suits, badges visible, making their way through the crowd. The same agents who'd interviewed me earlier in the week. Excuse me, the lead agent said. We're looking for Mrs. Meliora Moore Davis. Commander Wilson pointed toward the parking lot. She left a few minutes ago. We'll catch up with her. Mr. Davis, we wanted to update you on the investigation. Every person in the hall was listening now. The financial evidence you provided has been verified. We've documented systematic theft from multiple accounts over an 8-year period. Wire fraud, identity theft, elder abuse. Federal charges will be filed Monday morning. The crowd was buzzing with angry conversations. There's more, the second agent added. Mrs. Davis had been corresponding with several online groups dedicated to exposing what they call fake veterans. She'd provided them with your personal information, including your address and financial details. My blood ran cold. What kind of groups? The kind that sometimes take matters into their own hands. We're recommending increased security measures. Tommy stepped forward. What does that mean? It means your father may be in danger. Mrs. Davis has been telling people he's a fraud who's been stealing government money. When word gets out about his actual service record, Patricia was already on her phone. I'm calling the Capitol Police. They can coordinate with local authorities. The FBI agent nodded. Good idea. Senator Hayes, we'd also like to discuss federal witness protection protocols. Witness protection? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Mr. Davis, you're now the key witness in a major financial crimes case. Your safety is a priority. The television news crew was capturing everything. This local Memorial Day ceremony was becoming a national story. That's when my phone buzzed. Text message from unknown number. Saw the news. You destroyed my life. This isn't over. I showed the message to the FBI agents. We need to move quickly, the lead agent said. He turned to address the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, for security reasons, we're going to need everyone to remain here for the next hour while we secure the area. Commander Wilson took charge. You heard the man. Nobody leaves until we get the all clear. The next hour was surreal. FBI agents coordinating with local police, news crews setting up outside, my phone ringing constantly, reporters who'd gotten wind of the story. Patricia stayed close. Amory, I need to ask you something important. What's that? Are you prepared for what comes next? This story is going national. Medal of Honor recipient, financial fraud, family betrayal. It has everything the media loves. I thought about it. 23 years of privacy, gone in one afternoon. I'm tired of hiding, Patricia. If this helps other veterans who are being abused by family members, then it's worth it. Good answer. Tommy approached with a concerned expression. Dad, I found something in Meliora's car before the FBI got here. He handed me a manila folder. Inside, printed emails, bank statements, photographs of me taken without my knowledge. At the bottom, a handwritten list titled Evidence of Fraud. The list included, Asterisk lives in trailer, poverty indicates no military pension, Asterisk drives old truck, can't afford vehicle payment. Asterisk collects disability, admits to mental problems. Asterisk no visible medals or awards, probably fake. Asterisk classified records, means nothing to classify. She was building a case against you, Tommy said, planning to have you declared mentally incompetent. I flipped through more pages, screenshots from social media groups, messages to reporters, phone logs showing calls to VA fraud hotlines. Dad, she wasn't just stealing money. She was trying to destroy your reputation completely. The FBI agent overheard. Mr. Davis, this changes things. This shows premeditation and conspiracy. We're looking at significantly more serious charges. Patricia put her hand on my shoulder. Amory, you need to understand something. Meliora didn't just attack you. She attacked the integrity of the Medal of Honor itself. That's not just a family matter anymore. That's a national security issue. National security? Think about it. If people believe Medal of Honor recipients are frauds, it undermines public trust in military awards. It makes it harder for real heroes to get the recognition they deserve. The implications were staggering. Commander Wilson approached with an update. Amory, I just got off the phone with the American Legion State Commander. They want to make an official statement supporting you. The VFW National Headquarters is preparing a press release. This is bigger than just our local hall now. My phone buzzed again, this time a call from a number I recognized. Hello? Mr. Davis? This is Channel 7 News. We understand you're a Medal of Honor recipient who was recently accused of stolen valor by a family member. Would you be willing to do an interview? Before I could answer, Patricia took the phone. This is Senator Patricia Hayes. Mr. Davis will be making a formal statement through official channels. Any interview requests should go through my office. She hung up and turned to me. Amory, we need to control this narrative. The wrong story could put you in more danger. The FBI agent's radio crackled. All clear outside, subject has been located and is in custody. Relief washed over the room. Meliora? Tommy asked. Pulled over 3 miles from here. She had additional evidence of the fraud scheme in her vehicle. Cash, forged documents, burner phones. Tommy sat down heavily in a nearby chair. I can't believe I was married to someone like that. You couldn't have known, I said. She fooled everyone. But even as I said it, I knew the truth was more complicated. There had been signs, red flags I'd chosen to ignore because I thought keeping the peace was more important than standing up for myself. The FBI agent approached with final instructions. Mr. Davis, we'll need you to come in Monday morning for formal testimony. And we'll need access to all your financial records going back 10 years. Of course. One more thing. The media attention is going to be intense. Are you prepared for that? I looked around the VFW hall, at the faces of men and women who understood sacrifice, at Tommy, who was seeing his father clearly for the first time in years, at Patricia, who'd traveled hundreds of miles to restore my honor. I spent 23 years hiding who I really am, I said. Maybe it's time the world knew. Monday morning, FBI field office. Fluorescent lights and government coffee that tasted like it had been brewing since 1987. I sat across from Agent Sullivan, the lead investigator, with a stack of documents between us that represented 8 years of systematic theft. Mr. Davis, before we begin formal testimony, I want you to understand the scope of what we've uncovered. He opened a thick folder. Bank records, wire transfers, forged signatures, security camera footage. The financial theft totals $187,432, but that's just the beginning. He slid a photograph across the table. Meliora, at a bank counter, clearly visible on security footage. November 15th, 2022, she withdrew $15,000 from your VA disability account using a forged power of attorney. Another photo. January 8th, 2023, $22,000 from your business savings account. The evidence kept coming. Dozens of transactions. Always careful amounts. Never enough to trigger automatic fraud alerts. She was smart about it, Agent Sullivan said. Professional. This wasn't desperation or addiction. This was calculated long-term financial abuse. What happens now? Federal charges, wire fraud, identity theft, elder abuse, conspiracy to commit fraud. She's looking at 15 to 20 years in federal prison. The number hit me like a physical blow. 20 years? Mr. Davis, she didn't just steal money. She attempted to destroy a Medal of Honor recipient's reputation. She contacted multiple media outlets with false information. She filed fraudulent reports with the VA. She engaged in what we call reputation assassination. Agent Sullivan pulled out another folder. Then there's this. Inside, printed screenshots from social media, forums dedicated to exposing fake veterans, posts Meliora had made using fake accounts. She spent months building an online case against you, photos of your trailer, your truck, your disability checks. She was preparing to go public with accusations of stolen valor. I read some of the posts. The language was vicious, calling for justice against veterans who steal benefits from real heroes. Some of these groups have been linked to harassment campaigns, Agent Sullivan continued. Death threats, property damage, workplace harassment. She was essentially putting a target on your back. My hands were shaking. I had no idea. The good news is that federal prosecutors take crimes against veterans very seriously, especially Medal of Honor recipients. The U.S. Attorney's Office wants to make this case a priority. What do you need from me? Your testimony, financial records, and your permission to make this case public. Public? Mr. Davis, this case could help protect other veterans. Elder financial abuse is epidemic in military families. Your story could prevent similar crimes. I thought about Selena, about the promise I'd made to stay quiet, to avoid attention. My wife asked me to keep a low profile. What would she want you to do now? The answer came immediately. She'd want me to protect other people from what we went through. Agent Sullivan smiled. That's what I hoped you'd say. We spent 3 hours going through evidence. Every forged signature, every unauthorized transaction, every lie Meliora had told to access my accounts. By noon, the formal charges were filed. The paperwork was complete. Walking out of the FBI building, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Justice wasn't just coming. It had arrived. My phone rang. Tommy. Dad, I just saw the news. Federal charges. 15 to 20 years. Silence on the other end. Then, good. Tommy, I know this is hard. She was your wife. She was a fraud, Dad, just like she accused you of being. His voice was getting stronger. I filed for divorce this morning, and I want you to know something. What's that? I'm moving back home, the main house, where I belong. You don't have to. Yes, I do. I let my wife disrespect my father. I let her steal from you. I let her make me believe you were something you weren't. He paused. I have a lot to make up for. That afternoon, I drove to the trucking yard. My employees had seen the news coverage. When I walked into the office, 47 people were waiting. They applauded. Janet, my secretary, was crying. Mr. Davis, we always knew you were special. We just didn't know how special. You're all special, I said. This company exists because of your hard work. What happens now? Asked Mike, one of my senior drivers. Now we get back to business. We have trucks to run, customers to serve, families to support. But I knew everything had changed. The quiet life was over. The secret was out. That evening, Senator Patricia Hayes called. "How are you holding up, Amory?" "Still processing everything. The White House called my office today. They want to invite you to a ceremony recognizing veterans who've faced elder abuse." The White House. "You're not just a victim anymore, Amory. You're a symbol, proof that heroes come in all forms, and that justice is worth fighting for." I looked out the window of my trailer. The same view I'd had for 8 years, but everything looked different now. "Patricia, I have one question." "What's that?" "How do I make sure this never happens to another veteran?" "You keep telling your story, Amory. You keep fighting." "Then that's what I'll do." The story exploded across national media faster than I could have imagined. Tuesday morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. CNN wanted an interview. Fox News was sending a crew. The Washington Post had assigned their military correspondent to cover the story. But the most important call came from someone I'd never heard of. "Mr. Davis, this is Margaret Chen, Veterans Legal Aid Society. I represent elderly veterans who've been financially abused by family members. How can I help you?" "Sir, your case has already triggered something unprecedented. Since the news broke yesterday, we've received over 200 calls from veterans reporting similar abuse. 200 in one day. We have cases of sons stealing disability benefits, daughters-in-law liquidating military pensions, grandchildren accessing VA accounts without permission. Your story has given these victims the courage to come forward." The weight of responsibility was overwhelming. "What do you need from me? Would you consider testifying before Congress?" The House Veterans Affairs Committee wants to hold hearings on elder financial abuse in military families. Congress. Selena would never have believed it. I'll do whatever helps other veterans. By Wednesday, the legal consequences for Meliora were mounting. The local prosecutor had filed additional state charges: identity theft, elder abuse, forgery. Her bail had been set at $500,000. Tommy visited my trailer that evening with updates. "Dad, her lawyer called. They want to negotiate a plea deal." "What kind of deal?" "Full restitution, 10 years in federal prison, permanent ban from handling anyone else's finances." "What do you think I should do?" Tommy was quiet for a moment. "I think you should ask yourself what Mom would want." Selena. Always Selena. She'd want justice, but she'd also want mercy. The prosecutor says with a plea deal, you'd get your money back faster. Without a trial, you'd avoid months of media attention. I considered the options. A trial would be public, messy, painful for everyone, but it would also send a message. "Tommy, how many other families are going through this right now?" "I don't know. Why?" "Because maybe they need to see that there are consequences. Real consequences." Thursday brought news I hadn't expected. The VFW National Headquarters announced they were creating the William Davis Veteran Protection Fund, a legal aid program specifically for elderly veterans facing financial abuse. Commander Wilson called with the details. "Amory, they want to raise $2 million in the first year. Legal services, financial counseling, emergency assistance for victims." "That's incredible." "There's more. The American Legion is creating a similar program. Combined, they're projecting they can help over 5,000 veterans in the first year alone. 5,000 veterans who might avoid what I'd gone through. The media attention continued building. By Friday, I'd been interviewed by 3 national news networks, 2 newspapers, and a documentary crew from the History Channel. But the most meaningful moment came Saturday morning, a knock on my trailer door. When I opened it, a young woman in Army dress uniform was standing there. "Sergeant First Class Maria Rodriguez, sir. I drove 8 hours to meet you." "What can I do for you, Sergeant?" "Sir, my grandmother is 82. Army nurse, served in Korea. For the past 3 years, her son, my uncle, has been stealing her pension. I saw your story on the news." She handed me a folder of documents. Bank statements, forged signatures, unauthorized withdrawals. I didn't know what to do, but when I saw what you went through, how you fought back, I realized I had to act. I invited her inside, made coffee, spent 2 hours reviewing her grandmother's case. "Sergeant Rodriguez, you need to call the FBI. This is federal elder abuse, just like my situation. Will you help me? I'll do everything I can." By Sunday, the consequences for Meliora had expanded beyond anything she could have imagined. The IRS had opened an investigation into unreported income. The State Bar Association was reviewing the lawyer who'd helped her forge documents. 3 other families had come forward claiming she'd given them advice on managing difficult elderly relatives. Tommy moved back into the main house that weekend, 40 years old, starting over, but determined to rebuild our relationship. "Dad, I need to ask you something." "What's that?" "How do I make sure I never let anyone manipulate me like that again?" I thought about his question, about trust and family and the difference between loyalty and enabling. "Son, your mother used to say that love without boundaries isn't love at all. It's just fear dressed up in fancy clothes." "What do you mean?" "I mean Meliora counted on you being afraid to confront her. She counted on me being afraid to fight back. Fear made us both accomplices in our own abuse." Tommy nodded slowly. "So what's the solution?" "Courage, son. The courage to stand up for what's right, even when it's family, even when it's hard." The phone rang. Another veteran needing help. Another family facing financial abuse. Another person who'd found courage because someone else had stood up first. "Mr. Davis, I saw your story on the news." I picked up the phone. The fight was just beginning. 6 months later, things had settled into a new normal. Meliora pled guilty to federal wire fraud and elder abuse charges. 12 years in federal prison, full restitution of $187,000, lifetime ban from serving as anyone's power of attorney. The money was important, but the symbolism mattered more. Tommy had taken over day-to-day operations of the trucking business. Turns out he was good at it. Better than good. We'd added 6 new trucks and landed contracts with 3 major retailers. "Dad, we need to talk about expansion," he said over coffee one Tuesday morning. "What kind of expansion?" "Regional distribution center, create jobs for veterans, partner with the VFW employment program." I smiled. "Your mother would love that idea." "I think she'd love a lot of what's happening." The congressional testimony had led to new federal legislation, the Veterans Elder Protection Act, providing funding for legal aid programs and requiring banks to report suspicious activity on veteran accounts. 347 veterans had contacted me directly, seeking help with financial abuse cases. The Legal Aid Society had successfully prosecuted 68 cases in 6 months. But the most important change was personal. "Tommy, I need to tell you something." "What's that?" "These past 6 months, getting to know you again, working together, it's been the best part of all this. Even better than getting justice?" Justice was necessary. Family is everything. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Do you ever regret keeping quiet about your service for so long?" I thought about Selena, about the promise I'd made, about 23 years of privacy. "No regrets, son. Everything happened when it was supposed to happen. Your mother was right. I needed to be a man first, a hero second. But when someone threatens your family, your honor, your community, silence becomes a luxury you can't afford." "What's next for you?" "Keep helping veterans. Keep building this business. Keep being your father." Sounds like a good plan. That evening, I got one final call. A young veteran recently returned from Afghanistan, convinced his family was stealing his disability benefits. "Sir, I don't know what to do." "Son, you do the same thing I did. You stand up. You fight back. You remember that your service matters, your honor matters, and nobody, not even family, has the right to take that from you. Will you help me? That's what we do for each other. If you're watching this story and you've ever felt powerless against someone who should have protected you instead of exploiting you, remember this. Silence isn't strength. Standing up for yourself isn't selfish. And sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is the one everyone underestimates. Thanks for listening. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from, and if this story helped you find your own courage to speak up.